Hey, good morning, everyone. So we are starting our first unit on natural resources. So what we're going to be doing today is going through this Nearpod presentation. And once we finish going through the Nearpod presentation, we are going to fill out our natural resources note catcher on ClassKick. You can find both of these things linked onto Google Classroom. So, expectations, we are going to first do the Nearpod presentation, and then when we're done, we will fill out the note catcher. Um, we'll get a good start on it today, but we'll probably need tomorrow to get this finished up. So, if you all want to, you can go ahead and pause this video and work on these individually, independently, or you can stay with me where I go through and explain the Nearpod presentation and explain exactly what I want from you all to get out of the note catcher. So we'll go ahead and get started. Resources. We're going to look at non-renewable and renewable resources, how we consume them, and then just how the earth naturally produces some of these resources that we use. So, what do you think non-renewable resources are? Let's break this word down, or these words down. We have non-renewable and resource. So take about 15 seconds, pause this video, and think about what do those two words mean? Okay, so now we're going to go through and I'll kind of explain what non-renewable resources are. First, we have a couple examples. We have coal, petroleum, and gas. Coal, petroleum, and natural gas or gas are considered non-renewable because they cannot be replenished in a short period of time. Okay, coal, petroleum, and gas are all fossil fuels. Nuclear energy. Nuclear fission uses uranium, which is a mineral, to create energy. Nuclear energy is a non-renewable resource because once the uranium is used, it is gone. Okay, and we'll go through more about what that means here in just a second. Okay, so we have nuclear energy uses uranium as its primary resource here. Uranium is the mineral and element that is used to generate electricity in most nuclear power plants. So we're using this uranium, this mineral that's naturally produced by Earth to generate this electricity to power these nuclear power plants. So when we're looking at different kinds of minerals like coal or oil, minerals are formed underground, and we'll go through a little bit more how coal and oil are formed here in just a couple slides. Not all minerals are found in pure form. Some have to be extracted out of the ore. That ore is shown in a picture right here, and that's just like a bunch of different minerals all in one big form. So we have to pull those out, extract those out of there. So, as promised, we're going to go through how coal is made. So, about 300 million years ago, there were a ton of swamps. This was way before the dinosaurs. We had a ton of giant plants that lived in these swamps, and they died. So, they died, and then when we look at about 100 years ago, now we have water back on top of all of these dead plants. So if you go through the different layers, we're looking here, we have water on top, then we have some dirt, and then all those dead plants that died 300 million years ago in those swamps. So when we're looking at what we have today, we have our rocks and dirt and then coal underneath. So these dead plants, over millions and millions of years, there's been a ton of heat, a ton of pressure that really compressed those dead plants and formed them into coal, which is now, a usable resource that we use. So go ahead and think about, why is coal considered non-renewable? Okay, now we're going to go through how are oil and gas made. So, um, again, pretty similar setup. We had these tiny sea plants 300 to 400 million years ago in the ocean. They were buried under the ocean floor. Over time, they were covered by layers of silt and sand in the ocean. So as we move forward, 50 to 100 million years ago, we have our ocean on top. Then we have a layer of sand and silt, um, all covering this layer of plant and animal remains. Okay, so these plant and animal remains get buried deeper and deeper. And similar to how coal is formed, we have a huge and enormous amount of that heat and pressure that turn these into oil and gas. So that's what we see today over here on the far right. We have that sand and silt at the very top. Then we have that oil and gas deposits down at the very bottom that were compressed by that heat and pressure. So today when we get our oil and gas, we have to drill all the way through down that sand and silt and that rock to reach these oil and gas deposits. Why are minerals non-renewable? Okay, they form over a long period of time, usually millions of years, and are used up faster than they form. So, like when I think about when I put gas in my car, for example, I get gas about every week, once a week, right? Um, so I use up a full tank of gas in a week, where it took 300 to 400 million years to form, right? So that's why we're looking at gas as a non-renewable resource, because it takes millions of years to form and a very quick amount of time to use up. So go ahead and fill this out in your Nearpod. What is the difference between oil and coal? Pause this video, fill that out in your Nearpod, and then we'll go ahead and move forward. Okay, so this definition is super important. You're going to have to put this into that class kick assignment. A non-renewable resource is a natural resource that cannot be remade or regrown at a scale comparable to its consumption. So again, we're going back to how quickly are these resources used versus the millions of years they take to produce. Okay, so now we're going to look at a short news video and kind of just what's happening, all around the world. So, non-renewable resource makes a run for it. Pipeline has a huge leak, not even duct tape can fix, but really. So we're gonna quickly watch this video.
Now on a gas leak, major story down in Shelby County where crews could have the broken gas pipeline fixed by next week.
Okay, Colonial Pipeline crews are cleaning 250,000 gallons of fuel that spilled near Helena. CBS 42 News reporter Michael Oder is live in that area of Shelby County tonight. And Michael, this spill will affect what we pay at the pump.
That's right. Experts are already expecting a 5 to 10 cent increase at the gas pump here in Alabama and across the South. And normally this time of year, you'll start to see those gas prices slip a little bit as we head into fall. But with the price bump and the shortage that they're expecting, that should tell you everything you need to know about how big this spill is. Now, Colonial Pipeline, they are working to get to that area of the pipe right now. They are digging in that area. They're not sure how big the impact will be. They have rerouted gasoline to a secondary pipeline in the area. Finding this leak is not going to be easy either. They have a crew of 600 working 24 hours a day. They are digging up near where they believe the gas leaked out of, and they will continue to dig until they find out where the leak is.
At this point in time, not being exactly certain where the point source is, it becomes kind of an excavation activity until such time as you find it. Real difficult to say how long that takes.
And that's only half the solution there. Once they find the leak, then they have to figure out how to repair it and the pipeline and then get gas flowing through it once again. So this is not going to take a very quick amount of time. They want to take their time and do their due diligence, but expect the price at the pump to start to rise up over the next couple of weeks. Live in Shelby County tonight, Michael Oder, CBS 42 News.
Cool. So, really think about that, right? We always see gas prices fluctuating, especially at the height of coronavirus when we were all in quarantine, right? Gas was so cheap, and that's because people weren't traveling. I actually saw gas as cheap as $1.11, which was incredibly crazy. And then think about what happened to those gas prices as we came out of quarantine, as people started going back to work, started traveling. Did they go up or down? They went up, right? Because people started traveling and there was a bigger need for gas now. So what they talked about in that video is there was that gas leak, meaning all of this gas is leaking out. And they used to have a lot of gas and now there's less gas because of that leak, which is going to make those prices go up. Okay, go through this memory test. It's just some pictures, right? And you're going to click on some pictures and try to get two of them to match, right? Go through this, get all those pictures to match, and then we'll move forward. Okay, if non-renewable resources are resources that cannot be remade at a scale comparable to its consumption, what are renewable resources? Go ahead, pause this video, take about 15 seconds to think about that. Okay, renewable resources are natural resources that can be replenished in a short period of time. Okay, so we have 5 renewable resources that we're going to talk about. We have solar, wind, water, geothermal, and biomass. Okay, those are going to be super important to remember. Solar, pretty simple, just energy from the sun, right? We see a ton of solar panels everywhere. Why is energy from the sun renewable? Draw an example of how solar panels can be used. Go ahead, pause this video, take some time in your Nearpod presentation to draw an example of how solar panels can be used. Okay, we also have wind is a form of renewable energy. This is just energy we get from the wind, right? Here we have a big windmill that is collecting all of that energy. Why is energy from the wind renewable? Water or hydroelectric, okay? Hydroelectric is a pretty big word, but we'll just take a couple of seconds to go ahead and break this down. Hydro, right, means water, and electric is electricity, energy, right? So water or hydroelectric is the energy from the flow of water. Okay, why is energy of flowing water renewable? Geothermal, right? Geo means earth, thermal means heat. Okay, so it makes sense that this is the energy from Earth's heat. Okay, why is the energy from the heat of the earth renewable? Biomass. Bio means living, right? So this is the energy from burning organic or living matter. Okay, why is energy from biomass renewable? Okay, why do we think that those 5 resources are considered renewable? Go back to the definition of a renewable resource and really think about that. Okay, let's go through some common uses of Earth's resources. Okay, we're almost done. Common uses of natural resources are everywhere. It is nearly impossible to cease the consuming natural or geological resources altogether. Here are just a few examples of things you commonly use but probably don't think about. 1, a pencil uses zinc and copper to make the brass at the tip of the eraser, petroleum for the eraser, iron in the machinery to make the pencil, pigments, clay, and graphite. The only renewable resource in your pencil is the wood. So, and also when we look at your genes, they're usually blended with that petroleum-based fibers to cut down on the shrinking. And then you also have the dye and all of the fabrics from the petroleum. So a bunch of different things to look at there. Okay, next, what is the main difference between renewable and non-renewable resources? Okay, this is a key point to this whole unit. So take some time and think about this. Answer the question in your Nearpod, and then we'll go through the Classkick assignment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at our natural resources note catcher. The first two things that you need to do is define non-renewable energy and renewable energy. Okay, those are super important words that we really need to understand the difference between. Next thing you're going to do is go ahead and fill in this chart that we have set up below. So you're going to fill in, here are type of resources on our left side. This middle column, you're going to put if it's a renewable or non-renewable resource. And then on the right, you're going to put a description of what this is. You can draw a picture if you want, and also include how it's made, right? So we went over how coal is made. We also went over how oil is made. If we didn't go out over how it's made, you don't need to include that in there, okay? But make sure that you go through and label each of them as renewable or non-renewable, and then give a quick description or a quick picture of what they look like. So you can see, I think there's 8 or 9 there. They're all the ones that we went through. Next, you're going to go through and list 3 ways in everyday life that you use a non-renewable resource. Do not use anything that we talked about in the Nearpod presentation. Okay, these are things that you need to come up with by yourself. How do you use non-renewable resources? Next, you need to list 3 days in everyday life that you or somebody else, so whoever, just you can think of random things, uses a non-renewable resource not from the Nearpod presentation. So what ways do people use renewable resources? Okay, hint, maybe think of solar panels, how we use like dams, and windmills and stuff like that. Last piece to this Classkick assignment, we are going to compare and contrast the renewable and non-renewable resources. So these are pretty linked to each other. So the first thing you need to do is go in and fill in all of the examples that we talked about. Next, I have filled in for you that renewable resources cannot be replaced as quickly as it is used. And then fill in renewable resources are what? How is nuclear energy made by? How is coal made? Why are renewable resources considered renewable? Oil and gas are made by what? Uranium. What role does uranium play? What are the common uses of Earth's resources? So our renewable resources. And what role do minerals play in all of this? So go ahead, work through this in Classkick, and then when you are done with all of this, you will fill in a Google form to go through a quick little knowledge check, but we'll go through that tomorrow. So again, get a good start on this today. And then tomorrow when we come in, we will finish up working on this, and then you'll be able to fill in that knowledge check. Awesome. Get to work.